Magic Duel. That's the title you're going with, Mr. Super Speedy Setter Squeezy 6000. You're not even gonna give us an article, just flat out Magic Duel. Whatever. Magic Duel starts with a cloaked figure running around a city until it enters a generic fantasy antique shop. There it looks around multiple shelves, pushing things around, including what is clearly a bottle of poison and the skull of a zebra. Eventually the shop owner turns on a light and asks the shadow what it's looking for. It points to this thing, the Twilight'S Amulet.
I'm afraid this is far too dangerous.
And why is that on display, dumbass? The cloaked figure drops a bag of coins on the table, and the store owner is quick to change his tune. We cut to Fluttershy comforting her animal friends. Apparently, Twilight is going to do some kind of magic trick involving them.
Anything happens to them, Twilight, so help me.
I'm beginning to think that Fluttershy has some sort of personality disorder. Please stop putting animals in danger. Twilight and Spike begin talking about Twilight's feats of magic, like a certain other episode that Season 3 wants to keep reminding me of, when Rainbow crashes into Twilight, claiming that there's some kind of emergency. As long as it's not Tweedledee and Tweedledum doing it, then I'm fine. It turns out that the great and powerful Trixie has returned, and this time, she's got a few terrifying tricks in her arsenal. When Snips and Snails start fanboying over her, she fuses their horn together, which is so satisfying. Trixie wants to challenge Twilight to a magic duel, with the winner staying and the loser leaving Ponyville forever. Hey, it's like that other M.A. Larson episode where the character has everything to lose but nothing to gain.
Forget it. I'd never make a deal like that.
M.A. Larson actually learned from a past mistake. Awesome! So, in order to get Twilight to accept the duel, Trixie starts tormenting each of her friends, such as turning Spike into a ball or removing Pinky's mouth. I suppose that's another way to make a mean-spirited joke work, have the character doing it not be morally sound. That's a clever loophole. Trixie reveals that after the events of Ghostbusters, no one could take her seriously, so she had to take a job on Pinky's rock farm. So yeah, Trixie's pretty pissed, and she keeps casting spells. I just realized that the local authorities in Ponyville suck. After watching her friends in misery for some time, Twilight agrees to spells get undone, except for Pinky's mouth. The duel begins immediately. So let's talk about this duel, shall we? A very common criticism of this episode is that it's underwhelming because there's no actual fighting. They're just casting spells trying to one-up each other. Can I say that title again? Magic Duel. The point of a duel is not to beat the shit out of each other. It's simply to prove that you are better. Think of it like fencing. And the spells they use are some really clever callbacks, like the Parasprites. The duel ends when Trixie casts an aging spell on Snips and Snails, and Twilight cannot undo it because age spells can only be done by the highest level unicorns. With that failure, Trixie commands Twilight to leave, and her friends come to her defense. So Trixie uses magic to toss Twilight out, and then she covers the town in Yeah, I'm pretty sure that that's a reference to the Simpsons movie. After a very heartfelt goodbye, Twilight runs into the forest in an attempt to train her magic further, and she fails. Then she begins talking to herself, saying that she can't send a letter to Princess Celestia without Spike. I would say that she could just take the train, but it's been explained that the princess is delegating in Saddle Arabia. And if the main six don't go there in Season 4, I will be massively disappointed. Twilight eventually gets the idea to visit Sakura, and Sakura agrees to train Twilight in magic, because apparently she knows magic as well. We cut back to the rest of the main six dealing with Trixie. If they refuse to do exactly what she says, she puts them into some kind of torment. And then we cut back to Twilight. These two plots have a much similar tone than the subplots of A Crystal Empire, so it's a lot more excusable here. Twilight is training in a homage to The Empire Strikes Back, when Trixie's taunts echo in her mind, causing her concentration to slip. Twilight feels that there was something different about Trixie. She knows that Trixie was a show-off, well, sort of, but she wasn't evil. By the way, how deep exactly is that water? The rest of the main six desperately search for an answer in Twilight's library. Fluttershy finds a book with a picture of Trixie's necklace, but all of her friends are ignoring her because she's Fluttershy. Spike takes the book from her and reads it aloud. That necklace is called the Twilight'S Amulet. It gives the wearer untold powers, but it corrupts the user, and only the wearer can take it off. They decide that they need to get the information to Twilight, and according to Rainbow, only Fluttershy can escape unnoticed. Assuming that this episode takes place after both Hurricane Fluttershy and Putting Your Hoof Down, since this was originally supposed to be a Season 2 episode, I don't really know. Maybe there's a tyrannical dictator tormenting all of her friends. It's just a thought, and Fluttershy eventually goes through with it. The barrier alarm goes off, and Trixie rides her chariot pulled by both Snips and Snails, and the chariot doesn't have any wheels.
Powerful Trixie doesn't trust wheels. Now pull faster!
That is hilarious. Oh, by the way, Trixie, thank you for doing that. The ones setting off the alarm turn out to be a few angry beavers, wanting to get a tree branch out of town.
Why is she so mean to us?
I don't know. Maybe you destroyed her life. It's just a thought. Fluttershy was hidden in the tree, and her animal friends lead her off into the Everfree Forest, whether or not she wants to go. Once again, tyrannical dictator. Fluttershy tells Twilight about the Alicorn Amulet, and Sakura reveals that there's just one more lesson of hers that Twilight has to use.
Trixie's tricks have you in a fix. You must mix your magic and use the 6.
What the hell is with the cryptic bullshit? Is there any reason for you to speak in riddles? Even in the story sense, since Twilight figures it out pretty much immediately. Twilight writes on a piece of paper and tells Fluttershy that they've got to find a way to get her back into the city, something they presumably do off camera. Trixie responds to another alarm, and finds Twilight at the edge of the dome. Twilight confronts Trixie, and tells her that she cheated. Of course, Trixie doesn't care, so Twilight reveals a magic amulet all of her own. And Twilight claims that it's much more powerful than the Alicorn Amulet, and challenges Trixie to another magic duel.
How about another duel? Why should I? I already beat you.
Yay! Emily Larson didn't forget his lesson either! Twilight does tempt Trixie enough to get her to concede to a rematch. So they start off, and hey, the mayor's in a cage. This episode keeps getting better and better. So the second duel begins, and Trixie turns Snips and Snails into infants. Twilight calls in Applejack and Rarity, and turns them both into fillies. Then she keeps changing their ages, shocking Trixie. But Twilight is only getting started. She clones Rainbow Dash. Wait, that's not scary. Makes Pinky's Swarm of the Century instruments appear, and turns Applejack into a stallion. Unable to compete with that, Trixie takes Twilight's amulet and takes hers off. Rainbow swoops down and takes the Alicorn amulet. Then this happens.
Stop it! That tickles! Tickles? That was supposed to make you writhe in agony!
One more time.
That was supposed to make you writhe in agony!
People who are underwhelmed by this episode, I want you to remember that line. You wanted that to work as intended.
You monster.
We find out that Twilight's amulet is one of Sakura's doorstoppers, and Rainbow gives the Alicorn amulet to Sakura. So how did Twilight do all of these tricks? Simple. She had her friends and their family alter their appearances. So we get the ending, which has Twilight making the animals float. Again. And Trixie says that she's sorry. Twilight forgives her because she actually had an excuse to be out of her right mind. Unlike another episode. If the Super Speedy Senator Squeezy 6000 was M.A. Larson's best title and his worst episode, and Magic Duel is his worst title, would that make this his best episode? No, I still think the Cunemore Chronicles and the Return of Harmony have a beat, but it's a pretty close third. I mean, the only criticism lodged at this episode is that it's underwhelming, and considering that everyone seems to be taking every possible opportunity to nitpick everything about every Season 3 episode, then to me that means that this episode is nearly flawless. Yeah, there's the animal thing, but it doesn't really last for a while, unlike in, say, May the Best Pet Win. And Sakura's being cryptic for no other reason than to be cryptic. But everything else is top-notch, from the humor to the heart to the visuals. I personally can't really think of anything else that I could ask from this episode. At all. It gave me all I wanted to see and then some. With all the references to previous episodes, this episode was definitely made for die-hard fans. And perhaps that's why I like it so much. So, what's next? Oh, we get to see our new challenger, Corey Powell's first attempt. Wish her luck, everybody!